Hello, and welcome back to Classic Song Reviews. I am the man, or the middle-aged nerd if you simply must. As you know, today's music is both morally and artistically bankrupt. In this show, we hearken back to a purer time, when music was excellent and lyrics were meaningful. Our song today reached number 9 on the charts in 1970. It was the only hit for a very short-lived group called the Pipkins. Let us examine the depths of their song, Gimme Dat Ding?
Oh, that's right, I'm sad and blue.
The gentleman seems to have a frog in his throat. We have a disembodied voice declaring that he is sad and blue. Most songs of this period would attribute this sadness to the loss of a love. Let us see if that is the case here.
'Cause I can do the boogaloo.
He is sad and blue because he is unable to perform a particularly silly-looking dance of the 1960s. We are certainly off to an auspicious start.
I'm lost, can't do my thing.
How does not being able to perfect one particular dance make him lost? We are not told. Furthermore, if his lack of terpsichorean aptitude so thoroughly prevents him from doing his thing, perhaps it is time to find a new thing. So far, this is rather confusing.
And that's why I sing the gimme that thing.
I feel as though I have been partaking of more of Moonchild's medication. At least we have some music beginning, so let us see where this rather nebulous introduction takes us. The music is very lively, and the hinky-punk piano is... Excuse me? Honky-tonk? I doubt whether that is even a legitimate word. No, I believe hinky-punk is the correct term. Harry Potter. How did he get into this? I still believe your information is incorrect, but for the sake of moving on, I shall stand corrected for now. The, honky-tonk piano is most enjoyable. However, lyrically, we appear to be in a bit of a rut. We are merely saying the same thing over and over and over. I realize that repetition is a key element in good music, but one must determine how much is sufficient and how much is too much. Clearly, this composer has not located the boundary between those two concepts.
Baby, are you down, 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 down? Baby, are you down, 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 down?
And equally clearly, he is not the only one. The strange voice returns, asking the person to sing it yet again. I find this quite unnecessary myself. Nevertheless, the song repeats this nonsense chorus, and then we at last move into the body of the song. The quasi-amphibian voice said something there to the effect that you aren't doing that. Doing what? Once again, the song does not tell us. However, the higher voice appears to ignore the statement altogether, making the question academic at best, so one wonders why the line is there at all. The chief question of the verse comes next. What good is a metronome without a bell for ringing? I find this puzzling because every metronome I have ever encountered has made a clicking sound, not a ringing one. How does a metronome make use of a bell? The frog reinforces the notion that this metronome is useless without it, but up to this point, that voice's trustworthiness in matters of fact has been open to question. Let us continue. Swinging. I must assume here that we are referring to the pendulum of a mechanical metronome, though once again, I have never seen one that actually rings a bell. It may be true that without some sort of sound, one cannot tell the speed at which the metronome is oscillating, but I still do not understand the significance of the bell. It would seem that we are, in fact, attempting to read music. Without a discernible tempo, determining the rhythm of notes within a bar is often difficult, sometimes impossible. The primary voice asks how to know where he is in the context of a musical passage, while Popeye appears to misunderstand and take the question in a more generalized sense. What showed promise of being a musical dialogue has now degenerated into a sort of lecture punctuated by heckling. We have a repeat of the chorus and then a very nice honky-tonk piano lead. We come back to the chorus, which is fairly typical for rock songs of this era. Then we have another verse, and we can only hope that this one will explain something. I believe my sound system is misbehaving again. It appears to be replaying the first verse. Just a moment. Alright, let us try this again. I will use the fast forward function to reach the spot that we are examining. Yes, that is our destination. Let us see what this next verse actually says. Apparently the problem is not my sound system. We are merely repeating the first verse in toto with no elaboration. Wolfman Jack is still no help, mostly reiterating nonsense comments that he has already made. More chorus and we have a finish. What are we to make of this? According to what little information I was able to find, the primary voice actually is supposed to be a metronome, while the sludge monster voice is a piano. I see no hint of either of these factoids in the song itself, but as best I can discern, those identifications come from the composers themselves, so I suppose we should consider them reliable sources. Still, even these identifications raise numerous questions.
That's right, I'm sad and blue, 'cause I can do the boogaloo.
It hardly seems necessary to point out that, to the best of my knowledge, no one has ever seen, designed, or built a dancing piano. First, that is animated. I doubt whether that is what the song means. Second, and more important, that is not the boogaloo. The dance in question goes something like this. Yes. Please continue. The other voice, as I said, is supposed to be the metronome itself. But I find this rather dubious. It is not the job of a metronome to read the music, nor is it the job of the piano. There is no mention of a pianist here, but only such a person would be qualified to read the music written on the bar, perhaps with the assistance of the metronome to be sure, and then recreate it on the piano, but neither instrument can do any of these things on its own. One has to wonder what inspired such an odd, nonsensical song. I admit nothing. Then let us examine the primary line of the song, which is repeated ad infinitum in numerous iterations of the chorus. What is this thing that the metronome wants? The piano cannot do its thing, so the metronome wants it? I feel as though I have walked into a Salvador Dali painting. The surreal nature of all this may be more than I can bear. Excuse me? Can that be right? Of course! I assumed that, because we have repeated occurrence of the subcultural idiom dat in place of that the word ding was an equally subcultural idiom for thing. However, I have been informed that this is not the case. The ding is a literal one. He is asking to hear a bell ring. I must repeat that I know of no actual interaction between a metronome and a bell. But it would seem that in this through-the-looking-glass world, metronomes do in fact contain bells, and when one loses its bell, it asks the piano for help in finding it. The piano is not interested in helping because it is busy bemoaning the fact that it cannot do a particularly stupid-looking dance. Do I have that right?
Yes, sir, you are correct, sir.
Admittedly, the song was written and recorded for use in a children's television program, so we may excuse the liberties taken with regard to animating these inanimate objects. However, the erroneous information being given to children about musical instruments as basic as pianos and metronomes is difficult to overlook. One suspects that both the song and the show would have done well to have an actual pianist explain to the children how the two instruments work together to make actual music. That would certainly get their attention, though we must keep in mind that many children are afraid of clowns. Yes. Looking at this song, both in the long view and in the particulars, I must conclude that, despite the enjoyable music, the excellent interplay between the two distinct voices, and the pleasant silliness inherent in the idea of a piano and a metronome talking to one another, the information provided to potential young musicians herein is likely to produce a generation of pianists whose skill is somewhat below virtuoso level. I rest my case.
There's a metronome, keeps time, click, 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 and the metronome has lost its click. And the pianola can't play because the metronome has lost its click and he can't keep time. So it should have been called Gimme That Click, but it didn't sing very well, so they changed it to Gimme That Ding.